Hello and welcome to the next session on the practical demonstration of Dixie 4.94 software. In the last session, we have already discussed about the various settings available inside a 7SA5221 Siemens numerical distance protection relay. What are the implications of all these available settings inside this 7SA5221 relay? We have already understood the meaning of each and every settings which are available inside this relay. Now in this session we will discuss about the binary input output configuration in 7SA5221 relay using Dixie 4.94 software. In the last session we were discussing about this relay settings using one of the pre-configured 7SA5221 relay, and we will continue the same relay, and in this relay we will discuss about the input output configuration by using one of the standard scheme which is available with us. Now, like in the last session, in this session also, I have already opened Dixie 4.94 software over here, and now you are already aware about this, that once you open this Dixie 4.94 software, you will generally see either a blank screen or a screen or a window which you have already opened last time. So last time I was working with this project. So once I opened the Dixie 4.94 software, so automatically it has opened this project only. In the last session, if you remember, we are working with this 707 bay RA panel distance protection main one relay. So again, I am working with the same relay only. I have double clicked on this and I have opened the 7SA 522 relay of 707 RA panel distance protection main one. Uh, Once you open this in the new window, you already see there are the two windows, one in the left hand side and one in the right hand side. In the left hand side, there are some things available like settings, enunciation, measurement, and oscillographic records. In the right hand side, corresponding to each of these tabs, like settings, you will see some functions available with settings, some with enunciation, some with measurement, and some with oscillographic records. Now, in the settings tab, in the last session, we have already discussed about the device configuration, power system data 1, setting group A, oscillographic fault records, general device settings, and time synchronization. In this session, we will discuss about the masking IO configuration, and if time permits, we will also discuss about CFC logics. If there are any limitations with time, then we will discuss about the CFC logic in the next session. So right now we are focusing only on masking IO configuration. So once you double click on this masking IO configuration, a new window will open. Now if you see this new window, there are some rows and columns available with you. In the left hand side, if you see the number of rows which are available to you, like device, power system data 1, oscillographic records, power system data 2, power swing, distance general, SOTF, etc., then these tabs or these rows are available to you on the basis of the functions which you have selected inside your device configuration. So if in the device configuration, if you have selected this power swing detection as enabled, then only you will be able to see this power swing here. Basically, what are available inside this power swing is that inside this power swing, if you double click, you will see different types of signals which are available to you. These different types of signals are basically generated by this 7SA5221 numerical relay depending upon the functions. We will discuss about this in somewhat later stages. Now, if you see in the right hand side or the number of columns that are mentioned here. So first thing is that if you see here, first thing is your numbers. In the number, there are some numbers which are mentioned to you. These numbers are basically a 5-digit number like 003 or anything like 70, 71. These numbers are generally used so that when you are searching anything inside this 7SA5221 relay manual, then your process gets simplified. You can easily search anything. Instead of searching this time sync, you can simply search 00003 and you will directly be directed to this point, and then from there you can see how time sync signals will be generated inside your 7SA5221 relay. If you see next, it is display text and long text are basically exactly the same. In case of long text, you will see the complete description of any signal like this time sync. Basically this complete signal is synchronized internal real-time clock, but there are limitations that we cannot use a long text name inside your 7SA5221 relay for either for CFC logic or for your input output display or for your oscillographic record display. So generally some limitations are there. Basically the limitation is that you can have a signal of only up to a maximum of 10 to 12 alphabets. So if you are using a signal which is having more number of words, what you can do is that you can type a smaller short signal name like time sync over here in the display text, and the long text you can describe the complete signal here. So now inside your 7SA522 relay, an initiation, event log, DR, and CFC logic, everywhere what you will see is time sync signal. And if you want to see what is basically the complete description of this signal, then you have to come back in this masking IO tab, and from here if you select this time sync, now you see that this signal is basically synchronized internal real-time clock. So in the long text, you will see the complete description. Now comes the next type. Next type is your type of the signal. So basically, you know that theoretically there are only two types of signals. Either it can be analog or it can be digital. Now a digital signal, you could have a signal which is either your information or indication signal or your command signal. Now these information or command signals can be of two types. Either it can be a single point signal or a double point signal. So what basically the meaning of single point and double point signal is that, if you remember in the Boolean logic or in the Boolean algebra, a single point means the signal can be either 0 or 1. So that means a signal can be either low or high, like a signal like spring charge. So a spring can be either charged or discharged. It cannot have an intermediate stage. So those types of signal in which you have only two states and two well-defined stages are called single point signals. Double point signals are, if you remember from the Boolean logic, those signals can be described like 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0 or 1, 1. Basically, according to Boolean logics, now if you convert these 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, 1, 1 into the decimal, it will be 0, 1, 2, 3. And if you remember, 0, 0 and 1, 1 basically are invalid states. So these types double point signals are like your isolator's position or breaker position. So your isolator can be either in the open state or in the closed state, or it can be in the intermediate state. Like if the isolator is neither in the open nor in the closed state, so it can be in the intermediate state. So depending upon these three types of state, open, closed or intermediate, now you cannot describe the signal using only 0 and 1. You have to use uh, 2 point signals. So that's why when you are using any signals which cannot be described in single stage, like DC fail or DC healthy, AC supply fail, AC supply healthy, or spring charge, spring discharge, if you are using any signals for the status of isolators, breakers, earth switch, then you have to select these signals as double points. Next thing is that in those analog signals, you will have a signal which can be either the integer signal or can be floating point. We will discuss about these in the later stages. First, now if you see here, suppose I am selecting any of the signals for you over here. This signal like direct trip send channel 1, direct trip send channel 2, or carrier receive channel 1, channel 2. It is basically SP or single point indication type signals. What does it means is that in these types of signals, you can have only two states. That is, either the direct trip signal is sent or not sent. Either the carrier is received or it is not received. So these types of signals are basically single point signal. In case of distance relay, generally all of your signals are in the single points only. When we will configure, or when we will discuss about the configuration of the BCU, then we will see the double point signals. Now this is for indication. Similarly, in the double point signal, you can have the double point command also. Also in single point signal, you can have single point command also. The single point command means, for example, suppose you are using a command for resetting of master trip relay. So it is a single point command. But if you are giving command for breaker, so now what is required over there is that you are giving the command to circuit breaker and you want the feedback of that circuit breaker position also. So, for example, you are giving the circuit breaker close command. What you want is that when you are giving the circuit breaker close command, you want to get the status of circuit breaker closing after that close command execution. So, in that case, now you require one signal for circuit breaker closing command, and at the same time you want the status also. So those types of double point signals or those types of double point commands is basically called command with feedback. We will discuss about this in the BCU configuration session. Now if you see over here, there are two columns, one is S and one is D. S and D is basically the source and destination. So if you double click on this, you will be having this extended screen now. In this source side, basically the signals which are configured in the binary inputs will be displayed to you. So all the binary inputs will be displayed in the source. All the binary outputs will be displayed in the destination. So we will discuss about this in later stages. First, the binary inputs. Now, if you see here, inside this source, apart from this binary input, you are having these three tabs: F, S, and C. F is basically for the function key, S is for system interface, and C is for SCADA. C is for CFC. Now, function keys are, if you basically in any Siemens relay or any digital numerical relay, in on the front panel there will have some function keys available to you, like function key 1 2 3 4 5 6 or any number of function keys. In Siemens numerical relay there are generally 4 function keys available to you. Now these function key you can configure for various types of shortcut functionalities. Like for example, suppose I want that if I press function key 1, then I can see all the measurement signal inside the relay, or if I press function key 2, then I will be able to see the event log or trip log. So those types of features, those types of functionality we can configure using function key. Basically what happens is that, suppose this is a function key. If you select any function key, since these are internal signals, we cannot select here. We will discuss about this in later stages, how we can use any function keys for configuration. Like suppose here again we cannot, because function key, I think already they are used all function keys. We will discuss about this in later cases. So function key, basically you have 4 function keys available on the front panel of the relay, and you can configure any of these function keys as per your requirement. S is basically the SCADA interface, and if you see here, just I expand this also. If you now see, this is the completely expanded version. I have minimized these things, indications. Now if you see here, there are same thing, function key, SCADA interface, and CFC in the source side, and in the destination side you have SCADA interface, extended SCADA interface X, and C is for CFC. Basically the source side means if you any signals you want to configure as binary input, that is source side. So if you want to configure any of your signal as the input, or if you suppose want any of the signal to send from this 7SA522 relay to your SCADA system, or for you want any signal for gouging purpose, then you have to configure those signals into the destination of the SCADA interface. For example, if you see here, these signals are configured. Right click and expand simply. Now all these signals are configured in SCADA interface, and just expand this. Basically what is this signal? These are block distance strip, single pole, L1, L2, L3, and these signals, these are configured now in the SCADA interface destination. That means all these signals are being sent from here to your 61850 interface, or basically from here to your SCADA system. So any of the signal, if you want to send from this Siemens relay to SCADA system, then you have to select those signals into the S tab. Since I am already using this pre-configured file, so I am not able to change anything over here. I will discuss with you about these things in somewhat later sessions, when I will discuss about the 61850 configuration. There I will discuss these things by using one completely empty 7SA5221 relay, and I will discuss about these things from scratch, how these signals are configured, how the SCADA interfaces are selected, and how then these SCADA interface signals are routed from this 7SA522 relay to your SCADA system through this IEC 61850 configurator. And I will also discuss about the 61850 system configurator in the later stages. Right now, just remember one thing: if you select any signal in the destination side of S interface, or in the X interface, X and S are basically the same thing, then these signals will be transferred from this 7SA5221 relay to your SCADA system. Basically, what is the S and C? I will again discuss about this in later stage, but just for some clarification, just right click on this, and if you go to properties, again this there is some problem in my software, that's why I'm not able to continue. Just wait for 1 minute. It is closed. If at any time you face this type of problem, then basically what you have to do is just close this, because you will be having some RPC server error. This is now RPC server is unavailable, and this is because of the incorrect installation of this Dixie 4.94 software in my laptop, and some files are missing. So just close this and start again. Close here, double click, open, and now go to settings, masking IO. I zoom this. I already explained to you about this. Now in this thing, now I have explained to you about this SCADA interface. Next thing is your CFC. So again, if you see here, there are two CFCs block available, one in the destination and other in the source side. So if you want any of your signal as the source of the CFC, what is the meaning of the source of the CFC? Suppose if you want, basically these are your internal signals, so you cannot configure or you can configure this power swing block here, but you cannot configure now. If you see next, this signal like power swing unstable and this power swing unstable, two power swing, different types of signals. These signals, apart from the first one, are basically generated by 7SA522 relay, depending upon your settings, depending upon the system conditions, whether the power swing is unstable or whether it has to issue power swing trip command or power swing detection. So you cannot make any of these signals by using any logic or any logic made by you cannot make these signals high. But what you can do is that you can make a logic for blocking of this power swing detection. So now if you select this in this source CFC, if you select here, now again if you right click and select this as configured, now what happens is that once you make a CFC flowchart, I will explain to you about the CFC in the next session. Now if you now want to make any CFC signal, then in that CFC logic, this signal block power swing detection will be available to you as an output signal. So whenever you want to use any of the signal as output of the CFC, you have to configure those signal in the source side. If you want any of the signals to use as the input of the CFC, suppose now you want to use these signals like power swing unstable, power swing detected. So these are the internal signals which are available to you on the basis of relay settings and actual system conditions. So once your relay has detected power swing unstable signal, so this signal will be high. So now if you want to use this signal for creating some of the logic, so basically what you want, you have to do is just right click here and select this as configured. So once you select any of the signal in the destination side of the CFC, that signal will be available to you as the input in case in the CFC chart. I will discuss about this in detail in the next session. Right now we are limiting ourselves only up to here. Next thing is If you see here, I have already discussed about FSC and SXC. So the next thing is your the buffer. Basically, the buffer is used for your enunciation storages. So what is the meaning of enunciation storages? Is like when your distance protection relay is operated. So once your distance protection relay, suppose zone 1 operated, and you want to analyze or you want to do the fault analysis after the uh, system disturbances. Now, there are two things. One is your disturbance record, which are available to you as a part of oscillographic fault records. Another thing is that you can configure the signals of your distance protection relay in your trip logs, which is available here. If you see in the enunciation, I have already saved some of the trip logs from the earlier sessions. So, if you click this, now what you can see is that some of the signals are available. So this is one of the faults on 19th of June 2020. And if you see here, these signals are available to you like relay pickup phase L2, relay pickup earth, distance pickup. That means there are some faults in the system due to the network conditions, due to the system conditions. And because of that, your relay has detected power system fault on 19th of June 2020 at 2 o'clock to 17:59 812 milliseconds. And now all other signals after this is referred, the delay time is referred on the basis of this time of detection of fault. So if it is mentioned as 0 millisecond, that means this time is basically 2:17:59 812. If it is mentioned as 4, that means this time is 4 millisecond offset from this 812 millisecond. Again this 20, so you have to add this 812 plus 20, that means this time is basically 2:17:59 832. Likewise here up to the last signal. Again, if you see here, this is the relay pickup signal which is available to you at 0 millisecond. Now if you see at the end, again the same signal, if you see here, this is the signal number 00501, and again this signal number 00501. Here this signal was on, so relay picked up due to any of the functions. Suppose this relay pick up due to zone protection, due to distance protection anywhere in your network as per your system relay settings in 7SA522 relay. So relay picked up at 0 millisecond, and now if you see here, you are having again the same signal, relay pickup off. That means the relay has not reset. So this signal, you see here, this signal you have in your trip log available as both when it is becoming high and at the same time when the signal is getting low. So both instances being recorded. So how this is being done is basically, it is a very simple thing. If you see here in your settings masking IO, so basically you are having this tab. O and T are important and relevant to us. O is for the operational indication buffer and T is for trip log. So if you configure any signal inside this trip log, that will be available to you as a part of trip log after any fault detection by your system. Whenever a relay operates or whenever relay picked up, all these signals will be available to you in your trip log depending upon your settings, whether you want to save as pickup or whether you want to save as trip. Now, if you see here, the settings are basically either I or IO. If you select this as IO, then inside your trip log, the signals will be available to you on both instances, when it is getting high as well as when the signal is getting low. So that's why you in the last this trip log, if you see, use this signal relay pickup, you have when this is on or when this gets high. At the same time, the signal is available to you when this gets off or when it gets low. So that means this signal must have been configured in IO. So if you see, this is 00501. Now 00501, if I remember correctly, it must be configured in something like here. And this is your 00501, and just go to this side, and here you see the signal is configured as IO. That's why it is available to you on both instances. When the signal gets high and as well as when the signal goes low. If you configure anything as I, then the signal will be available. Suppose this is relay definite trip and it is configured as I, that means it will be available to you in the trip log only when this signal gets high. Likewise, if you select any signals as O in the trip log, then this signal will be available to you in the trip log only when it gets low. Similarly, this is your trip log. At the same time, you will also have the event log also. In the event log, the configuration method also remains the same. The difference is that in the trip log, you generally select some of the most important signal that you want to see for your better fault analysis. In the event log, generally you can configure anything. In the newer version of the relay, you can configure up to a maximum of 100 signals in your event logs. Also in the trip log, generally some of the relay engineers, some of the configuration persons, they select the signals both in the event log and the trip log, but it is generally it is a good practice that you select the most important signals in the trip log that you can use for a better fault analysis, and select all other signals in the event logs. So now you are aware about this operational indication buffer, trip logs. What is the meaning of IO? O. You are also aware about this system interface, extended system interface, CFC source side and CFC destination side. Now the next thing that is available to you is the binary input and binary output. Now if you see over here, on the topmost side it is written as binary input, and on the bottom you are having some numbers written from 1 to 16. That means in this relay there are 16 binary inputs available, and you can configure these 16 binary inputs as per your scheme drawings and as per your requirement. Likewise, in this relay, you are having 23 binary outputs available to you, and you can configure these binary outputs as per your scheme drawing and as per your requirement. Now, just minimize this and expand this LED. So you see here in this 7SE5221 relay, or for that purpose, in all this Siemens distance relay, you will be having 14 LEDs, and you can configure this LED as per your requirement. Now again, if you expand this, you can see just 1 minute configure to this. If you see here, there are basically two types or three types of configuration available. One which is blank, that means if you see here, that means this LED is not configured for anything. For this moment only, in the later or somewhat later stage, I will explain to you that these LEDs are basically configured, but for some other functions. If you see here, or if you see here, all these LEDs are configured, but consider for a moment that if nothing is available here, that means this LED is configured for nothing. Another thing is that you can configure any of the LED either as latched or unlatched. The meaning of latched and unlatched is that suppose a distance protection relay has issued single phase zone 1 trip command and you have configured this LED as latched. In that case, what happens is that once the relay operates, it will issue single phase zone 1 trip command. If the fault is in zone 1 and it is a single line to ground fault, it will issue a trip command. And this LED, suppose this is LED number 1, it will get latched. That means now for resetting this LED, you must visit your switchyard, or you must go to your control or relay panel room, and you have to manually reset this LED. Second method is that you can take this relay online using your engineering or the DRPC, and from there using this software itself you can reset this LED. Basically, when you take this Siemens relay online, right now we are working the offline mode. If you take this online, this LED reset symbol will be high, and you can directly press this reset LED and your LED will be resetted. Generally, we prefer latched because it is better for easy fault analysis. Suppose you are having one relay, and on that relay, suppose some protection function is operated, then you just go to that relay panel or go to that kiosk or control room, and only from the visualization, only by seeing the front HMI of the distance protection relay, you can say that whether it has operated or not, in which zone the relay has operated, in which phase the relay has detected the fault, in which phase it has issued the trip command. So that's why it is better to configure it as latched. Otherwise, you can also configure it unlatched. Just click right click, and you see there are other functions like latched, unlatched, and not configured. If you select not configured, then this LED will be not configured for this particular function. If you select unlatched, then it will be unlatched. That means when this relay issues single phase trip command zone 1, it will be LED will be high. Once this single phase zone 1 command resets, then LED will be reset automatically. Now, another thing, if you see here, this is one of the LED number 1. And now if you see all the way down to here, this LED is configured for 3 different signals. That means one signal is distance strip single phase zone 1, another signal is distance strip 3 phase zone 1 with single phase fault, and the last one is distance strip 3 phase in zone 1 with multi phase fault. That means this LED 1 will be in the latch state in one out of these 3 conditions. That means when your 7SA5221 relay has detected a fault in R phase to ground, or suppose in Y phase to ground, and it has issued a single phase to ground fault, single phase tripping command, then this LED will be latched because this signal will be high. Suppose your relay has detected a phase to phase fault, suppose it has detected RY phase to phase fault, then generally it will issue your 3-phase trip command. And once it has issued a 3-phase trip command, then this signal will be high, that is distance trip 3 phase in zone 1 with multi-phase faults. And once this signal is high, again this LED will be latched. So LED 1 will be in latched state. One of the signal is that distance strip 3 phase in zone 1 with single phase fault. This condition generally happens due to one of the several reasons, like your relay is not configured properly, or the single phase trip permissive signal is not in the high state in your 7SA5221 relay. And I will discuss about the single phase trip permissive signal in somewhat later stages, what is its meaning. So in all those conditions, this signal will be high and your relay will be LED will be in the latched state. That means if you now see all these 3 signals combined, what these 3 signals basically say is that whenever your relay operates in zone 1, your LED 1 will be in the latched state. Similarly, if you see here LED 2, it is configured for 2 different signals, and one is this distance strip single phase zone 2 and another is distance strip 3 phase in zone 2. Generally, if you remember from the last session, we configured distance strip 3 phase in zone 2 only. We never configured for single phase tripping in zone 2. So this signal will not get high as per our configuration, but at some of the substation, at some of the utility, they can and they will configure as distance strip single phase zone 2 also. But generally, for all of the utilities across India, it is configured as 3-phase stripping for zone 2 faults. So in those conditions, whenever there is a zone 2 fault, relay will operate after the elapse of zone 2 timer, and this signal distance strip 3 phase in zone 2 will get high, and this will lead to your latching of LED 2. Similarly, you can see the third LED which will be latched after operation of zone 3. This fourth LED, if you see here, this will be in the latched states for these 3 conditions. So distance strip single phase zone 1B, 3 phase in zone 1B with single phase fault, and 3 phase in zone 1B with multi-phase fault. What is basically zone 1B? Zone 1B is your zone 2 plus carrier receive types of fault. What is the meaning of zone 2 plus carrier receive? I have already explained in your distance protection scheme theoretical session. So whenever there is a fault in zone 2 and the carrier is received at the local end from the remote end, either due to your configuration as PUTT or POTT scheme, now you want your relay to issue only a single phase trip command for single line to ground fault for auto reclosure purpose, because the fault is when you have received the carrier, that means generally the fault is your inside the principal line section. So you want your relay to issue auto reclosure, and once you want auto reclosure, that means you will have only a single phase trip command. So this is distance strip single phase zone 1, that will be generally high for all of the faults in zone 1B. Second condition is that if there is a phase-to-phase fault in zone 1B, then you will have phase-to-phase fault in zone 1B. That means you will issue 3-phase trip commands. Or like in the zone 1 itself, in the zone 1B also there can have a situation in which due to some of the configuration inside the 7SA5221 relay, or due to some of the missing signals, like the most important missing signal is your single phase trip permissive signals. If those signals are missing, then it might happen that for a single phase to ground faults in zone 1B, your relay might issue 3-phase trip command. So in case of any of these signals is high, your this LED will be in the latch state. Likewise, you configure for all other LEDs. So how we can see generally is that just double click this, it will be minimized. Right click on any of this black window where you want to, or gray window where you want to see, just expand. And now if you see here, basically this is what this is. LED number 5 is for relay trip command only phase L1. The meaning of this relay trip command means, relay trip command means in this 7SA5221 relay you will have a number of functions like zone protection for just in zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, SOTF protection, stub protection, over voltage protections, or directional earth fault protection. So whenever your relay issues a trip command on the basis of the any of the protection functions, like due to operation of zone 1, zone 2, or due to operation of power voltage, due to operation of DEF, then this signal relay trip command will be in the high state. So if the fault is in R phase to ground, for example, and it is in zone 1, then your relay will issue relay trip command only phase L1. But if this is a phase to phase fault in zone 1, or if the relay has operated due to overcurrent, or that means stub, or due to over voltage, then it will issue a three-phase trip command, and in that case you will see this relay trip command phase L1, L2, L3, and in that case those signals are also configured. In later stages we will see how those are configured. So basically you will have all these relay trip command phase L1, phase L2, phase L3, and phase L1 to 3, that we will see in somewhat later stages in next 2 to 3 minutes. So these LEDs are configured. Suppose it is R phase fault and relay is operated for R phase only, then this LED 5 will be in the light condition. Similarly for Y phase, similarly for B phase. Again, just minimize this, and now if you have to see this LED number 8, just click here and expand. Now you see this LED will be in the light condition when your 7SA522 relay has issued a trip command on SOTF protection. So when SOTF overcurrent has operated, this signal will be in the high state and your LED number 8 will be in latched condition. Similarly, if you want to see any of the LEDs, suppose you want to see this LED, just expand here and you see this. This is your basically when U phase to E means over voltage phase to earth. And why I am saying it is over voltage, because you see here it is a greater than symbol. So when it is U phase to E with a greater than symbol, that means it is an over voltage. And when you see here U phase to E with a less than symbol, that means it is an under voltage. Again, if you see here, you have U phase to E with one greater than and another greater than inside this small bracket. This means this is over voltage protection phase to earth, and one is for stage 1. If second is also available, that means stage 1 and stage 2 both, and this is for trip command. So when your relay has issued a trip command on over voltage phase to earth over voltage, either in stage 1 or in stage 2, and I have already explained about, to you about the stage 1 and stage 2. For this particular relay, stage 2 is 140% and stage 1 is 108% with some time delay of 7 seconds. So if there is a voltage of suppose 110%, then this relay will issue a trip command after elapse of 7 seconds. So after 7 seconds, this signal U phase to earth timeout will be high, and you see here this LED will be in latched condition. At the same time, this relay will issue trip command. That means when your over voltage stage 1 operates, this LED will be in the latched condition. Again, if you see here, when your relay issues over voltage trip command for stage 1 or stage 2, then this will be in the high stage. Suppose your relay has issued a trip command in over voltage stage 2. In that case, you will not get this signal over voltage phase to earth timeout, and in that case your LED 13 will not be in the high state. And now if you see over here, that means once your over voltage stage 2 has operated, then none of the LED will be in the high stage. Definitely there will be some LED for like the relay general trip LEDs, but the LEDs corresponding to your over voltage stage 2 will not get high because it is not configured. So it is better to configure this also. That means you just have to right click and set it at last. I am not doing here because of some problem in my software. If I select this, my software will get closed and I have to restart it again. So I am not doing this, but generally what you have to do is only just right click and select it as latched. So now once your LED part you understand, now we move up to your binary input. So just I have minimized everything, and now I have selected this source, and in this source itself now you see some of these signals which are configured. What we have to do is just because all the signals are generally configured over here, so right click and expand. What you see is that all the signals are configured as either H or the other thing is L. So the difference between H and L is basically H is the active with voltage. That means uh, suppose this is our scheme drawing. This is your input signal. Direct trip send channel 1 by the input 1. Now this signal will be high if I have configured here as H, that means active with voltage. So now if you have across the terminal K7 and K18, you have the auxiliary voltage of suppose 220 volt DC available, then only this binary input will get high. Similarly, if this is a binary input 2, which is carrier receive channel 2, and if you have configured this as active with voltage, that means when you have the DC voltage available, 220 volt DC voltage available across this terminal J1, J2, then only your binary input 2 will get high. If you configure this suppose binary input 2 as L, then in that case what happens when there is no voltage available across this terminal J1, J2, then your input will be in high state, and once your DC voltage comes across the J1, J2 terminal, then your input gets low. And how this we can verify why I have selected H or why not L. So if you see this, this is a basic scheme drawing, and the number written over here in this rectangle, that is 41. So now I have to move to this page number 41, and this is my page number 11, and this is basically 30 to 11, and I move there directly. Yes. No. So when I created 40, so 62, I think. So this is your 41, which I was mentioning earlier. So if you see now here, wait for 1 minute. This is your direct receive channel, and why I have configured it as high, if you see here, any of the signal, suppose this is your carrier receive signal, that is your binary input. Minute. Carrier receive channel 2, which is your binary input 2. So carrier receive channel 2, where it is available, carrier receive. So this is your carrier receive channel 2. Now just minimize it. This is your carrier receive channel 2. Now what we see here, why I have configured this as high or active with voltage, because if you see here how to see this scheme drawing, now these two parallel paths or these two lines basically show your DC bus. This is your DC positive 110 volt for an ideal condition, and this is your DC negative 110 volt. So now if you see here, this DC positive 110 volt, it is coming from here K101 parallel number. It is coming to this point. Now what this is showing here is CSH2 is carrier selection switch 2, and if it is in the in condition, then this DC will be transferred from this point to this point in the switch. So that means your switch will generally be in the in condition. So this is DC positive, it is coming. Now it is coming here, it is coming here, and now it is available up to this terminal J1. But what we want is that we have configured this J1, J2 as active with voltage. So that means we want across the J1, J2 terminal of voltage difference of or a DC voltage of 220 volt. But right now we are only having this 110 volt here. the positive. So we also want 110 volt negative here. So now see here, this is K102. This is the negative wire which is coming from this point. This negative from K102, and it is coming up to this point. Now this is going here, and if you see at this point, this is basically your PLCC channel. So once your carrier is received from remote end, and like I have already explained in the theoretical sessions, either it can be permissive underreaching or overreaching scheme, but depending upon whatever scheme, once your carrier is received, then this contact will be made, and once this contact will be made, so your negative DC supply, which is available up to this point generally, once this contact is made, this negative DC supply is now extended from this terminal to J2 terminal. That means now you are having this J1 terminal 110 volt positive, J2 terminal 110 volt negative. That means across this J1 J2 terminal you will be having 220 volt DC. And in which condition you are having 220 volt DC? When carrier signal is received from remote end. That means this binary input 2 will have a 220 volt DC when the carrier signal is received from remote end. That means this binary input 2 must be configured as active with voltage. So binary input 2 is configured as active with voltage. Similarly, the other inputs like binary input 3, we can see this from the scheme drawing. Now this is our input. I already explained binary input 1, binary input 2. If you now see here, binary input 3 is for your carrier receive channel 1, 4 is your DT trip receive channel 1, 5 is carrier fail, and basically all these signals are configured over here in the same manner. Now one thing which is very important to mention here is that if you see in the above signals, suppose just in general, there are some numbers mentioned over here. But if you see in this binary input, no numbers are mentioned inside this column. Whenever you see in this 7SA522 relay in the Dixie software, no numbers are mentioned, then it is a clear indication that these signals are not the internal signals of the relay, but these are added manually. That means these are manually configured signals, and how you can configure or how you can add any manual signal is basically a very simple thing. Just create, if you want to add any signal, just right click and go to insert information. In that insert information, you will be having some tabs like annunciation, control without feedback, and control with feedback, along with measurement and power meter. But these are not important for us right now. Even the control with feedback and control without feedback is not important for us, because it will be important only in case of controlling of breaker and isolators as well as the master tracking relay that we will see during the configuration of the DCU. The only important thing for us right now is the annunciation signal. Now in the annunciation, you will have basically two types of signal. One is single point and another is double point signal, which is only important for us. In the single point, if you see here, there are four types of signals, but all these signals are exactly the same. If you select this signal as on off, then what happens? Right now my software is not working correctly, but still I am selecting just for once. Just what you have to do is select here and drag and drop it over here. Okay, now it's working. So now if you see here, one signal has been added in the end, and this signal is SP00, and you can name it as any signal. Right now suppose I am test or test signal. Again, in the right hand side, just describe this as test signal for demo purpose. Now if you add the signal either at the single point on off or single point open close, there are no difference. If you see here, both signals are exactly the same. The only difference is that once you configure this signal either for your event log or for trip log, if this signal test signal gets high due to either your hardware input or due to any CFC logic, then if you have selected this signal as on off, so what you see in your trip log or in the event log or in your event window is that test signal is on or test signal is off. If you have selected the signal as open close, then when the signal is high, you will see that test signal close, and when your signal is in the low state, you will see as test signal open. Now the next two signals, the external signal point on off and external signal point open close. Again, the on off and open close is only for your display purpose. The external signal point signal is basically used for the gauge configuration, and I will discuss about gauge configuration in detail during our sessions on 61850. So right now we are limiting only up to the addition of this signal single point on off or single point open close. Likewise, if you want to add any double point signal, you can also select those double point signals, and in the double point signals you will have two options, that is double point, and in those double points, if there is a state, if there are both signal in the low states, then either it has to consider it as not valid or intermediate. So depending upon your requirement, you can select double point 0 equals to not valid and double point 0 equals to intermediate. So this is all about the addition of signals. Right now I am not using any of these signals because this is already a pre-configured relay. Again, this software issue. Just wait for 2 minutes. So now I have explain to you about these configurations of this binary input. Now, one important thing for us at this point of time is that if you minimize this and if you see for some of the inputs like the input number 7 or input number 2 and 3 and these input from 8 to 13, uh, many star points are available to you, and this means that these inputs are configured for multiple signals. Like for example, if you see the input number 2, then this input number 2 is configured as carrier receive channel 2, and at the same time it is also configured inside your distance teleprotection block. Just for that matter, I am selecting only this. Now, what this means is that this 7SA522 relay doesn't works on this basis of carrier receive channel 1, channel 2, which you have configured manually, because these manual signals are not detected by the internal functions of 7SA5221 relay. This manual signal is basic. Generally, you can create any number of manual binary input signal, manual binary output signals, but those signals cannot be used directly in the inbuilt internal functionalities of the 7SA5221 relay. So, if you want to use those signal in the internal functions, then you have to route this signal or you have to route those signals either through the CFC logic or directly to the internal inbuilt signals. So what I have done here is that I have used this carrier receive channel 2 signals binary input 2, and the same binary input 2 is configured to the internal signal distance tele receive channel 1, and this means is that now when your carrier is received from remote end, you will have one display in your event log or trip log in the DR as carrier receive channel 2, and this carrier receive channel 2 will be used to activate the internal distance teleprotection carrier receive, and on the basis of this signal the relay will take the decision to operate with zone 2 and carrier receive. Similarly, the next, that is carrier receive channel 1, it is configured to the next signal. Here it is, the nomenclature is not correct. Basically, this is channel 2, it should have been configured here, and channel 1 should have been configured over here. So this is basically whenever you configure any signal from this point and from this point, or if you select the same signal at some other point, since this is your output signal, so you cannot configure this output signal as input. So this is the best feature of Dixie software along with 7SA5221 or any Siemens numerical relay, that the signal which you cannot configure as input or output, just click over there and it will not allow you to configure. And Why it is not allowing you to configure? Because if you see the type of this signal, it is basically an out type of signal. That means this signal can be used only in the output, not in the input. And why? Because if you see in the greater detail, this signal is basically your distance teleprotection send or the carrier send signal. So basically the carrier send is the output of the relay. It cannot be the input of the relay. Relay cannot have an input which say that it is sending the carrier. It can only send the carrier signal on the basis of its configuration, that whether inside the configuration you have selected permissive under-reaching transfer tripping scheme, permissive over-reaching transfer tripping scheme. On the basis of that only it can have this signal active distance teleprotection send. So you cannot configure it as input, you can only configure as input. Likewise, the next signal, that is the signal number 7, if you see, the signal number 7 is basically the CV close command. Now again, this CV close command, if you don't want to use it anywhere inside the relay, then it's okay. But now if you want your CV close command, like I have already explained in the last session, if you want to use the CV close command for your SOTF function, then just go to this power system data 2 and you have to map this signal into the internal manual close signal. So once you have given the CV close command, then your input number 7 will be high, and this is configured as 7 because this is as per scheme, this is 7 number is for CV close command. So once you have given the CV close command, now this is already mentioned in the scheme, this is for the binary input circuit for SOTF. So once you have given the close command, then your CV close command signal will be generated. You have to map this signal to the internal manual close signal. Then only your relay will detect this CV close command as the manual close signal, and then only its SOTF function will be active. Now the next thing, if you see only now here, this output number 15, it is configured for here and here also. So here it is configured for 70789L open. That means this signal 15 is basically your line isolator open. And if you remember, line isolator open condition is required for you for stub protection only. That means once 89L is open, you can configure this for stub protection enable. Now if you are using this 89L open only inside your manually configured binary input signal, then relay cannot detect this for your stub function. So what you have to do is just go to stub tab. This is your backup overcurrent. Inside this stub, just select this function or this input signal, enable I stub bus function or stub function enable. So whenever your 89L, that is line isolator, will be open, this input number 15 will get high and it will make the stub function enable. So once you have configured your input signal, now the next thing comes is output configuration. So go to this destination tab, and now the output configuration, if you see, there are lots of matrix or lots of masking over here, but this is again a very simple thing. If you just expand any of this, just expand, if you see here this input number 1, 2, 3, I will explain to you some of the outputs. Output number 1, 2, 3, for example. If you understand some of the outputs, you can definitely understand the configuration of any output, and you can do the same by your own. So if you see here 1, 2, 3, now in the scheme drawing, the output number 1, output number 2 and output number 3 is for two main CV TC1 circuit. That means these outputs are to be configured. Output number 1, 2 and 3 are to be configured for your main CV tripping coil 1. And I have already explained to you what are the main CV and tie CV. This is basically this scheme I am considering here is for one of the lines, and the bus scheme over here is 1.5 breaker scheme. That's why we are having main CV and tie CV. And output number 1, 2, 3 is basically configured to get high in case gets high and to extend the DC to the tripping coil 1 of main CV. Now you know that the tripping coil of the breaker must get high for any of the protection operation. That's why this output 1, 2 and 3 are configured for. One number output is configured for relay trip command only phase L1, that is R phase. 2 number is for Y phase tripping coil, 3 number is for B phase tripping command. If you go down here, now you see that again this is again configured from the distance protection, Whenever the distance protection function is high, that is R phase, Y phase, B phase. Similarly, this will be 1, 2, 3 will be configured for your zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. Again, SOTF, stub, just go on expanding all this. So this will be configured for SOTF, this will be configured for stub, this will be configured for your earth fault, this will be configured for over voltage also. Remember one thing, even if you have not configured this stub, you have not configured this over voltage, you have not you forget to configure this SOTF, stub, or earth fault, over voltage, then also your relay will issue a correct tripping command to the tripping coil 1, because you have already configured this into the relay the general functions or the general power system data relay trip L1, L2, L3, because this L1, L2, L3 will get high in case of any types of fault. But for better reliability, but for better security, what we have done is that we have configured this 1, 2, 3 for all the types of functions which we are using, like the general function, or in case of the if any of the functions gets high inside the relay, then this output will get activated, or if only zone 1 is high, zone 2 high, zone 3 or zone 4, then then also this will be high. Remember one more thing, if you have configured this as relay general trip or relay trip command L1, L2, L3, then there are also some chances of incorrect operation, incorrect tripping of breaker, in case there are some settings which are inadvertently kept on inside your relay. Suppose your under voltage function inside your relay is kept on, and now due to some condition there is under voltage in the system, so your relay will issue trip command, but you doesn't want your system to operate for under voltage. So since due to some mistakes your under voltage function is kept on, and due to some system conditions under voltage is now active, so it issues a trip command, and you have configured these two relay trip command phase L1, L2, L3, so your relay will issue a trip command and breaker will be tripped. So generally it is not advisable to configure relay trip command L1, L2, L3. It is better to configure with the specific function like the distance function, the zones, SOTF, stub, and earth fault. Now, one questions might come into your mind that why we configure this only phase L1, L2, L3 if you can do away with the same thing by using only this single phase L1 or zone 1 tripping, zone 2 tripping, zone 3 tripping. This is required because in case of single line to ground fault, what you want is that you want to trip only a single pole of the breaker. So if you doesn't configure this only L1, L2, L3, then what happens is that suppose there is a single line to ground fault, then the relay will issue your trip command in zone 1 or single phase trip command in zone 1, and then only this particular signal will get high, and you can use this particular signal only to one of the outputs, or output 1 or output 2 or output 3. And if you are using this because this is only one signal, so you can use one signal at 3 locations, but all 3 locations will get active. That means you cannot have phase segregated tripping. So in case of you want phase segregated tripping for zone 1 and also for zone 1B, in that case, you can configure this as distance trip command only phase L1, L2, L3. Or for all other case, we configure these signals 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now again, if you see here 4, 5, 6, now it is again configured as the relay trip command and something like this. So what is the next is 4, 5, 6. 4, 5, 6 is basically your for 2 main CV TC2. So like what is the configuration for your 1, 2, 3, same will be the configuration for 4, 5, 6. And now if you see here, there is a problem in your relay configuration, and that's why I am showing you this particular project file, because this particular project file I have already deleted some of the configuration, I have already changed some of the configuration, I have already modified some of the configuration, so that now you can visualize what I have done here is that I have configured this 4, 5, 6 basically for the tripping coil 2 individual pole tripping from the relay general trip command, but not from the distance tripping commands L1, L2, L3. Basically, if your system is perfect, if your relay configuration is perfect, if your relay setting is perfect, then this doesn't have any issue. But if your system is not perfect, or if your configuration relay setting is not perfect, then it might happen, like I have already explained, that relay trip command, general trip command, might get high due to some inadvertent settings which might have remained on. So now you doesn't want this to be active. So what you want for single phase tripping, you want your distance tripping command L1, L2, L3 to be active. But in this case, you have not configured this distance tripping command L1, L2, L3. So once there is a fault, in case of zone 1, if there is a single phase fault, so this relay now, if you remove this configuration, suppose I remove this configuration, this and this again. So now what happens, I have removed this configuration relay trip command, and I have also not configured this distance trip command L1, L2, L3. That means if there is a fault in zone 1 and which is single phase to ground fault, so this relay cannot issue, suppose this is R phase to ground fault, so this relay cannot issue R phase trip command to TC2 of main CB. So this is the main issue, and like this way you can configure your complete relay. Now again, if you see 789 and the next, so this 789 is your for auxiliary relay 21.1 AX, and for which purpose this auxiliary relay is used. So just go to page number 15, and this is your 12, 13, 14, and this is 15. So this is your page number 15. So now if you see here, these are, so this is your auxiliary relay 21.1 XR1, XR2, XR1, XR2, XY1, XY2, and XB1, XB2. These are auxiliary relay, single phase tripping relay. So once your output contact, so suppose this is output contact 7, 8, and 9. Once output contact 7 gets high in your distance protection relay, what does it do? It activates this operating coil of the auxiliary relay 21.1 XR1 and 21.1 XR2, because once this contact gets high, this side is your positive DC bus. So this positive is extended from this side to this one end of this operating coil. The other end of the operating coil is already fed with the permanent negative, so this operating coil picks up. This operating coil 2 of the second relay also picks up. Once this operating coil picks up, all these NO contacts gets NC. So all these NO contacts is now make, and once these contacts are made, this will give the tripping command to main CB TC1, main CB TC2, tie CB TC1, tie CB TC2. At the same time, it will initiate the main 1 LVB, main 2 LVB. It will initiate the tie LVB. It will be used for the DR and for the FSC protection system. The TC1, TC2, I have already explained, the main CB, tie CB. Basically, why this auxiliary relay are used is to have the multiple of contacts available to you, because now what you see is that only one output contact of 7SA5221 relay is used, and that one output contact have led to the multiplication of the contact, and you have not 2, 4, 6, 9 output contacts available to you, and these now you can use these 9 output contacts as per your schemes. And the most important thing over here is your initiate main 1 LVB, initiate main 2 LVB, and initiate tie CB LVB. This I have already explained during the theoretical session on the LVB protection, that what is the meaning of LVB. The initiate main LVB means that once your distance relay have identified the fault in any of the zone and it has issued the trip command, so at the same time when it issues the trip command to circuit breaker, it will send a signal to your LVB protection relay, and LVB protection relay will treat this signal as the LVB initiation signal or LVB start signal. Once the distance protection relay has issued the trip command, so generally the breaker should trip and the fault current should comes down to 0 in a ideal condition. But if your breaker fails to operate, then the fault current cannot be interrupted, or the fault will be continue to feed in the system. In that case, your LVB protection, what it says is that in the first case, if the everything is normal, so right when the distance protection operates, it sends a LVB initiation signal to LVB relay. LVB relay, its timer gets started from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 200. But within that 200 millisecond, what happens is that your breaker opens and it clears the fault. So your timer resets and nothing happens. But if you suppose the distance protection operated and it issues a trip command to circuit breaker, but circuit breaker fails to operate, in that case, what happens is that now your timer is keep on running, and after 200 milliseconds, it sees that oh, the fault current has not come down to zero, but fault current is still persisting in the system. So your LVB will operate and it will clear the fault by the back tripping and inter tripping method, which I have already explained to you. So this LVB initiation is important, and again this TC1 TC2 is again the same thing, which I have already explained to you in the binary output configuration 1, 2, 3. So basically 7, 8, 9, if you see, is only for the R phase, Y phase and B phase individual tripping relay. That's why 7, 8 and 9 is configured only to relay trip command L1, L2, L3 and distance trip command L1, L2, L3. 7, 8, 9 or 8, 9, 10 basically. Now 11 and 12. So what is your 11 and 12 if you see? So this is our scheme drawing. Now 11 is for carrier send and 12 is yours for DT send. So if you see here, our output number 11 and 12. So where is 11? This is 11. Just go to this place, expand, and now you see this is basically the distance teleprotection carrier send signal. So once relay has detected the fault in zone 1 or zone 2, and depending upon whether the scheme is PUTT or POTT, it will send a carrier signal, and once it sends a carrier signal, this signal will get high, and once this signal gets high, this output number 11 will get high, and it will leads to sending of the signal to remote end. Similarly, output number 12, I have already explained in the scheme drawing. This output number 12 is for DT send channel 1, 2, and this signal is to be configured for over voltage and DEF. So output number 12, if you go there, this is output number 12, just expand, and this output is configured for your earth fault general trip, that is DEF, and for over voltage trip. So that's why the output number 12 gets active only in case of your over voltage and in case of your earth fault. Similarly, you can see all the other outputs, output number 13 to 23, and in this way the inputs and outputs are configured in the 7SA5221 relay. So if you see again the 13, so 13, 14 and 15, these are basically for the TIE-CB TC2 circuit. That means the configuration of 13, 14 and 15 will be exactly the same like 1, 2, 3. So this is your 13, 14, 15. So if you see here 1, 2, 3 and 13, 14, 15, it is exactly the same. So if you just keep on expanding, so 1, 2, 3 and 13, 14, 15, it is exactly the same. Here also the same, here also the same. Because now the 13, 14, 15 is basically for the TC2. So you must configure this for all the cases, like for distance tripping, for zones, various types of zones, for SOTF, stub, for earth fault, over voltage, and in this way 13, 14, 15, and now if you see the next, that means I think now this 17, 18, 19, that must be the TC1. So if you see here, this 17, 18, 19, it is for the TIE-CB TC1 circuit. That's why its configuration is also same. So if you see the next, which is the 16 number output, 16 number output, if you see here, it is configured for your DR, and this is to be configured for the case of over voltage stage 1 and DEF zone 2 and zone 3. So your 16 number output is configured for zone 2, zone 3, then it is after that zone 2, it is configured for your earth fault overcurrent general trip, that is DEF. It is configured for your over voltage stage trip, that is over voltage, and 16 number output is your also configured for user defined. That means it is of no use because this is same thing over voltage I already explained. However, this over voltage using these CFC features, and I will explain to you this CFC logic in the next session. So output number 16, 17, 18, 19 I have already explained. 20 number is for the DR, for stub protection, SOTF, and for DTDC. So 20 number is for your stub protection. Just go there, expand. So this is your SOTF. Come back one is lower and expand here. So this is your stub trip. So stub and SOTF you are using 20 numbers. Output number 20. Output 21, and this is very important. Output number 21 is for the start main CR, main CB auto reclosure, and output number 22 is for the start tie CB auto reclosure. Now, if you see 21 and 22, for which conditions you are using this, you want this output 21 and 22 to get high in case of for giving the initiation to VCU for auto reclosure starting purpose. Now, in which kinds of fault you want your auto reclosure function to work? You want your auto reclosure function to start in case of zone 1 single phase fault and zone 1D single phase fault. That means in case of zone 1 and zone 2 faults only, you want your auto reclosure to start. So, when now again, this is not a right way to configure. In this case, what they have done is that they have used this relay general trip command on phase L1, L2, L3 for a start AR, but this is not a correct way for doing. The correct way is go to this distance general and use this 21 for the distance trip single phase zone 1, and the next is this distance trip single phase zone 1B. Similarly, 22 is also zone 1 and zone 1B only. And remove this signal. Now it is a better configuration because now this signal output number 21 and 22 will be active only in case of single phase faults in zone 1, and when the relay issues single phase tripping in zone 1 and also in the zone 1B, then only your AR start will be active. The next, the last is the FSC DCU under voltage operated, and this is for, in this particular case, this signal is used for some under voltage interlocking in some other DCU, and that's why this function is used. This is not at all important for us, but if you want, you can directly see this is 23 number output. So go to 23. This is your 23, and when it is active, it must be active for under voltage case. So it is active for under voltage trip command only. So this completes our configuration of the input, output, LED, the event log and trip log. In the next session, we will discuss about the CFC logics, how the CFCs are created. We will discuss about some of the signals, and we will discuss about some of the simpler CFC logics. The complex CFC logics will be explained during the session on VCU configuration. Right now, we will limit ourselves up to this point only, and hopefully in the next session we will try to complete this 7SA5221 numerical relay configuration, because up to this point we have already explained about the settings. We have already explained to you about this input and output configuration, and once we complete about the CFC, then hopefully the configuration of 7SA5221 relay will be complete. And I hope that up to this point everything is clear to you. So for better understanding, please do practice these things on your Dixie software. You can download this Dixie software from Siemens website, and generally these Dixie software are you can use the Dixie software free of cost for 30 days without license, and if you want to use for lifelong for more time, then you can purchase the license, or if some of your friends might have the license, then you can use those licenses for running this Dixie software on your laptop. So thank you, and in the next session we will start with CFC logics. Thank you for up to this point.